Welcome back to another episode of the Gen Future Podcast. I'm your host, Luis Duque, and today we bring a conversation talking about unplugging, taking a time off, resting, and everything that comes with that. How are you doing today, Nicolai?
I'm doing good. Excited to be back on the podcast.
Yeah, so we're recording this just right after Memorial Day. Sounds like you had a great weekend unplugging, and I think this was a topic that I haven't really touched on before on the podcast. So I'm very excited to just discuss it with you because I know you had a great experience. I also took some time off this weekend and wanted to just discuss this. I think it's a very interesting topic. So what about we start with like your story? I think it was one where just completely unplugged, and we'll be touching about that a little bit, and then maybe at the end we can talk about maybe some ways to unplug on like daily day and work days after work, and some of these tips that we can share with others.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. I often talk about unplugging daily when I talk about time management or when I run through some of the programs that I lead. It's definitely a topic that I look forward to talking about, and I think there's a lot of great applications that people can start applying right away, which is always exciting for the people who are listening to be able to actually have an actionable thing to do. But this weekend, I went up north. So I'm in Arizona, and we went up north to near the Flagstaff area. My wife's family has a cabin up there, and it is completely off the grid. I mean, there was not a single bar of cell phone service up there, and I knew that. It's been a while since I've been up there, but with everything leading up to the Memorial Day weekend that we just had, life and work was pretty hectic, and it was really stressful. I had worked some really long hours, got some just lots of things going on. And then all of a sudden, I'm out in the middle of nowhere with no access to anything. And it was such a great reminder to do some of these like bigger unplugs, not just, for an hour a day or some of the other tips that we're going to talk about. But, I went 2.5 days where literally with nothing. And the first few hours felt really weird. I would just look at my phone. I'm like, yeah, still no service, still no text messages from anybody. I look at my phone like, oh, work still doesn't need me, even though they did. I just didn't know about it. So I just said, you know what, if I don't have any service at all, let me just put this thing in my bag, and left it there the entire trip. And it just felt so good. The stress that I was relieved of, um, it just felt really, really nice to come back really well rested. And it made me think like I probably feel more rested because the phone was completely out of sight than if I would have just maybe had it on the counter the entire weekend.
Mhm.
So I think we'll probably dive into that a little bit as well. Um, so yeah, that was my recent experience. So I'm really excited to be talking about this today.
Yeah, and I think this is a great topic, and I haven't really talked much about this in previous episodes, so I'm just excited to dive into it. My experience was a little different. We went to a lodge. It's like in a hotel, like a kind of like a resort down in Colorado Springs. It was our oldest son last day of preschool for the year, so we wanted to just do something special. Ended up just being him and I. Our daughter got sick, so they had to stay home. So was that an amazing, just kind of father and son 2 days together. We went to the pool. They had like a water park, so obviously like no phone in there. Just kind of enjoying the time with him, just kind of chasing him around and doing all that stuff. So yeah, kind of it's been a while since having like spent like time like that where you just kind of not worrying about anything, just kind of chasing little kids around and play with them and letting them have fun. So that was a fun experience. Then we came back. It was our family were in town, so we just kind of spent some time with them. And again, there's not like when you're like with families, like there's not a lot of time to just sit around and like be on your phone and scroll social media and do any all the things. So a little bit unplugging. So that was kind of cool. Um, yeah, so that was kind of my story for the weekend. I had a longer weekend than just the 3 day weekend, which was good because I've been working hard at work, and I've been working a lot on the PE course I've been writing and kind of getting the final stages. So that's been keeping me busy. So it was nice to just take a break and and rest for a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm right there with you on just it felt like a nice break. Um, I w- I was reading about this a while back. I think it was 3 or 4 years ago. This book came out talking about unplugging, and they were talking about how you really do need to unplug 24 hours in a row every week.
Mhm.
And just kind of like thinking about this almost gives me anxiety. I feel really good. I feel very productive. I feel like I can put my phone away. I've set all these different rules in place to really reduce my time on the screen. But when you think about taking a 24-hour break, you're like, without understanding or have feeling the benefits before, it can be almost a little overwhelming and scary. Be like, oh, I could never do that.
Mhm.
But after this weekend, that might be something I almost have to implement as well. I love golf, and there was a big golf tournament the other day, and there was a photo of Tiger Woods hitting the ball, and just massive crowd behind him. Everybody has their phone taking photos and videos, which it's a different form of screen time, but still screen time. And there was one guy right in the front row, just with a drink in his hand, no phone in his hand, and it was so funny how this one photo caught on, that people were like thinking this guy was just fully present, fully enjoying the moment. But it's so weird that he stands out because he doesn't have a phone in his hand. Like, how far have we come? I grew up without a cell phone and all these other things. So I mean, I was in the
Mhm.
age of before just always being connected. Um, but now how far we've come, that this guy actually stood out because he wasn't just holding his phone. So it's just lots of things I think we can talk about. So I was up in nature. We were up in the woods, and I've been there a bunch of times, and I just really was, the way I was feeling, the way I felt present with my kids, because my phone wasn't in my pocket, or I wasn't feeling the vibrations of text messages or whatever was coming in, or notifications. I also just was noticing how much more I was actually enjoying, and kind of just appreciating and connecting with what was around me, just without that draw. And I know, people say, well, if your phone's in your pocket, you're not looking at it. But it's just like, even if it was on the counter all weekend, or if it was in my pocket all weekend, it just feels different when it's completely out of sight, out of mind. I mean, how many times have you gone to a restaurant, and everybody gets there, and maybe they put their phone right in front of them on the table, and it's like, okay, well, maybe you have the person that puts his face down on the table, so at least it doesn't distract them. But it's still a distraction. It's still there. It's
Mhm.
still like very much in your mind. So no, I really had a fun time being away from my phone and my computer, and even a TV when there was no TV up there. Just felt really good. One other thing, before maybe you jump in on maybe some of the other benefits that you felt with unplugging, was, I do take naps. I sound old when I say that, but like, I try to routinely take a nap, on the weekend. And I noticed, during my nap up here at the cabin, waking up and not immediately looking at my phone. Sometimes uh, I get in the habit. And again, this is somebody who actually practices trying not to do all this stuff. But sometimes I wake up and I just immediately grab my phone and see, what did I miss, while I was sleeping for an hour or 45 minutes. And not having that, again, I just felt like it continued kind of that rest, it continued that recharge. Because if you go straight from that nap to like immediately stimulated in your screen, it just kind of not defeats the purpose entirely, but it just kind of takes away from it. And so it just felt stronger, felt like a deeper rest with that. What other benefits have you kind of noticed when you've unplugged?
I think so for um Lent. So for I'm Catholic, so for Lent this year I gave out social media. So no social media for 40 days. That was a long time. I felt like I was missing out on a lot of stuff. Um, but that just kind of showed me that social media is really there, and if I curate everything well and use it wisely, it's great. But at the same time, if I unplug from it like a few times, every now and then like you can get sucked into that rabbit hole of just scrolling mindfulness and like doing wasting time basically. So that was a great experience for me. I tried to control a little bit after that, but again, social media, I do it a lot with like the podcast and everything, so it's kind of part of what I do. But something that has helped me is just spending some time away from my phone or away from social media, away from like just using the phone and having those like short bursts of um what do you call that, just the kind of short bursts of like information, short videos, just very rapid fire of all those things kind of helps me concentrate better for like longer periods of time. I think I've noticed that, especially now that I'm doing a lot more writing in the morning, having like blocks of time where I just do writing and concentrate just doing that. I'm able to get in this zone and focus a lot better, after I kind of went through that exercise of like not using social media for longer periods of time. And I think that just kind of translates into like work and like having a space where you are focused on work rather than having like a thousand tabs open on your computer and like having maybe a cleaner desktop, not like clogged with files and everything. So I've seen the benefits kind of in that sense as well. Just kind of having a more productive day, where I can focus more, when I can grab a book and read for an hour and two, and not really be distracted all the time. That's kind of where I've seen the most benefit. Have you tried something like that? Have you seen like some of those benefits, now that you maybe came back from this experience or like have done something in the past?
Well, one thing I was noticing was by having kind of distraction free, or not having something even just kind of calling my attention. You know, again, even when it's not in your face, not in your hand, um, you still try to think about, okay, how often should I
Mhm.
check? Should I check my email? Should I check my text messages? Should I check social media? Just it's still in the back of your mind. And so I found that by having the complete unplugging of the phone, um, I felt like my creativity was a lot stronger this weekend. I felt like I had some new ideas, even when I wasn't really trying to actively think about these new ideas. It kind of made me come back a little excited to come back from this weekend, write some of these ideas down, and move forward with them in my side hustle, or with you, talking about today and some of the other ideas that we've kind of threw around recently, just kind of preparing for some of those. So I just felt like overall my creativity really kind of like rebounded, or I don't know what, maybe it just had been suppressed for so long just because being bogged down with work and just constant distractions. But just being distraction free and just letting your mind be able to wander really did kind of engage the creativity a little bit more.
Yeah, and I think
So it
just like
makes me
slowing
excited.
down, I think just slowing down and having that time to just not being consuming and consuming and consuming, but like just being on the other side. I'm like just like calming them down, like think and just dump ideas into a notebook or whatever you have handy. Just kind of tying back to that episode with Lisa a couple of weeks ago, just being mindful of your surroundings, being mindful of how you're taking care of yourself. Like if you are overworking yourself, you're never gonna make progress on the goals you have because you're gonna be tired, you're gonna be burned out, and I think that's where the mindfulness and all we talked about in that episode just comes to mind, and it's just super important, especially as engineers. I think we worked a lot of time and we worked long hours sometimes, and it can be stressful to be doing that for longer periods of time. So also that's planning vacation. I think that's something that as a family we have tried to do every year. We just try to do like a road trip during the summer, and having time during Christmas, and just having some time that we know we're going to be off work and it's planned, it's on the calendar, and we just kind of step away from work during those times.
Yeah, I think planning those vacations early on in the year too, and getting them in your calendar set, but then being committed to leaving the phone somewhere. Now, I
Hmm.
was thinking about this. Uh, my phone is my camera. I don't have like a separate camera, and I'm not really a big picture taker, anyways. I've really tried, especially when my kids were born, um, just making actual mental memories rather than just kind
Hmm.
of this digital click, and missing the actual moment. I think that makes a lot more sense. Um, like when you've experienced it with a child, but it could be anything. I mean, 4th of July. I mean, for years I noticed like 4th of July I'd be recording these fireworks going off. It's like just enjoy them, just like watch them, put the phone away, get the screen out of here, and just enjoy the moment that you're in. But getting committed when you're on these vacations to do that. Sure, maybe there are some areas that you're going to want to take a photo, but I learned a long time ago, well, Google has a whole bunch of photos on it already, so I don't need to be taking another picture of that statue or another picture of
Hmm.
that fountain, unless we're in it or something like that. Um, but yeah, that's one of the hard parts that I have found on vacations to unplug is you still have the draw with the phone, and then it's easy to move into kind of like, well, what else? I already have my phone open, so what else can I go look at while I have this thing unlocked? So, but no, I found that really good. I have a vacation coming up here in about a month, and I'm already kind of mentally preparing myself to just be like, all right, I will be checking my work messages, maybe in the evenings from this time to this time. But otherwise, I want to be fully present, family reunion, have fun with my family, give these experiences to my kids, and just really unplugging. But it takes a commitment. It's sad to say.
Hmm.
I wish it was just something you'd be like, oh yeah, I just toss my phone away, I'm good. But it actually does take a very committed, proactive action to actually do it well. But yeah, thinking about it beforehand is probably really helpful.
Yeah, and again, I mean, the phone is a tool. Like, there's a lot of things that we have on the phone that are important. Like, I have a bunch of notes. I use it again as a camera. I use it as sometimes like recording audio, recording video, recording anything. So the way we use the phone should be in alignment to the things that we really want to be doing. So again, I struggle sometimes because I use social media quite often. I don't. I only have Twitter on my phone, so I'm not checking like every social media. But yeah, sometimes you kind of get sucked into a cycle of just scrolling your mind without realizing how much time has passed. So by setting kind of the rules and limitations that maybe we're gonna talk here in a few minutes, you're going to be using the phone as a tool and using it to the best of its ability. Like, if you go on a trip, it's really easy to have the phone in your pocket, and if you want to take a picture, it's easier than carrying like a big camera or something else. You can read books, you can do a lot of things that are productive on the phone, other than just social media and doing just wasting time. So what about we just jump into maybe those tips that we or things that we do with our phones to unplug, and maybe during the day where we may be able to spend more time working or with family or doing better things with our time. What are some of the things that you do with your phone specifically that allow you to do that?
Yeah, that's yeah. So I think that's great. So I have an iPhone, and the iPhone settings, there's actually specifically a screen time setting in there. And the last
Mhm.
I checked a few months ago, the Samsung or the Android phone still did not quite have an built-in setting for this, but there were external apps that you could use, I guess. So you'll have to look those up if you're not an iPhone user. But I set timers for or limits for certain apps. So social media. I don't get there on there very often, but you set like a 20-minute timer for the day. So every time I open it up, it starts tracking down that timer, and eventually, once I've hit 20 minutes for the entire day, it locks. And sure, there's a pin. If you really want to go gung ho, set a pin, give the pin, or have somebody else set the pin for you, and now you're really really locked out. But it just takes a little bit of discipline to not unlock that timer and continue on. um, but I found that to be very helpful. There I do like an occasional game on my phone too. Set a 15-minute timer. 15 minutes is plenty to play a game on your phone. If you're playing hours of games on your phone every single day, you're probably not working as much as you should be, or you're not connecting with others as much as you should be. But I have 15-minute timer on there, so as soon as it hits that, it locks down, and I might be middle of a match or whatever I'm doing, and all of a sudden it's gone, and now I'm just done. I'm done for that day. So I would say my number one helper has been the screen time settings on the phone. And even again, I've taught this stuff for years. when the screen time first came out, I remember looking and I was averaging like 4.5, 5 hours a day on my phone. And I was already trying not to be using it as much as, as other people. So I make it a goal now to be 2 hours or less. Because I mean, yes, I do use my phone for work. That is my work phone. I do my side hustle emails and all my communication through there. So I do use it. But 2 hours or less a day kind of is my goal. But again, if you can't measure it, how can you even set the goal? If you have no metrics to track, how do you know how you're doing? So I would say that's my number one tip. What would be your number one tip?
So again, I have an iPhone 2, and something that I set up when it came out, I think came out last year, was the focus mode. So I have a focus mode for work, so for the day. So I have maybe like, I don't have my work email there, so I may have like my chat, to if I need to chat work, if I'm maybe away from my desk. I have just like the notes app and some other apps that help me kind of do work during the day. This is not my work phone, but I still do quite a bit of things there just because it's just convenient when I'm out of my desk or something. So I have the work mode, and then I have a personal mode, which is when I'm at home doing nothing. Maybe there's like the TV app. I want to watch a movie or something, maybe one or two games, whatever. And the engineer future mode, where it's where if I need to record something, if I need to send emails, and if I need to do all the things that I do for the podcast or the website or anything, those are the apps that show up. So the nice thing about this, like you said, the different modes, and you can have like custom screens for each of these. So you don't have to have all the apps in one screen immediately. So that's great. And then I have some automations where in the morning it automatically turns into work mode, and then when I leave work it automatically turns into personal, so I'm not like having to manually switch it. So that's one of the things that I do, and it works great because I'm not seeing apps that I don't need when I'm at work, and apps that I don't need when I'm just sitting on the couch and watching a movie.
Hmm. No, I think that's great. One other thing you actually told me that you do is you come home and you might leave your phone in another room.
Mhm.
I know I have tried that in the past, and I'm not as good as I probably should be or want to be. But I always thought that was a great tip that you've shared with me in the past of just putting your phone down and just being with your kid and not, having it on you or being on the couch and looking at it while your kid's trying to get your attention. And, you know how that is.
Yeah.
I mean, even without kids, if you're in a relationship, how can you really be fully engaged in a conversation if you're holding your phone or looking at your phone or it's open or something is beeping at you or colors are flying at you, whatever it is, some sort of distraction. Leaving it in another room. I have always been impressed about you. That tip that you've shared with me in the past.
Yeah, again, that doesn't happen like every single day, but I do try to do that often, especially especially when I'm working at the office. Then get home around 5:30. Just leave the phone at my home office and just kind of spend until 7 until bedtime with the kids, the family, cooking, whatever we need to do, without having the phone there. Just kind of checking and doing all of that. So I don't do it every day. Sometimes I forget. Sometimes I'm just either need to been doing something on the phone, or but I do try to just keep that in mind, especially when I'm at the office during the day. I'm away from home, just to do that. That's also great when you have like focus sessions during work. Just have your phone either in your backpack if you're at your office, or if you're at home, just kind of take it to another room and leave it there during that kind of focus sessions. Again, help you concentrate better, not having the phone inside and being distracted by all the things that the phone is beeping at you and doing all of that. And then just finally, I think one more, I'll let you continue, but I literally have like no notifications on my phone, like nothing really beeps, nothing. The only one that I have is my wife when she calls me or texts me. That's the only thing that rings on my phone. Everything else is off.
Yeah. Oh man, I turned off text notifications probably 2 years ago, and I mean, that alone changed my productivity a lot.
Mhm.
Because even if I wasn't answering the text, but I could see it vibrate or hear the ding, whatever it was. I'm at work and I'm like, oh man, I need to check that. Like, even though I'm not stopping work to look at it, it's still in my mind of something is calling my attention, something needs me to respond, whatever it is. That was a game changer for me, turning off pretty much all of my notifications. Um, But one thing you mentioned about work, and this is a really, really great tip for people who are working. You said leave your phone in your backpack or something like that. I don't have kind of a phone policy for my employees. I do ask them to limit their screen time, when they're at work. And yeah, I walk past, I see sometimes they're texting or something like that. But there are a few, interns and EITs I've hired over the years that they put their phone in their drawer and it pretty much stays there the entire day, and it comes out very rarely. But they are so productive, they are so good. Like when they're work, they're fully present, they're engaged. uh, they're never distracted by that. And then I have some people who have just had their phone face up in front of them, or even put it like a little stand right in front of them. So every
Mhm.
time it dings, or every time it lights up, I see them look down at it and get distracted. And they typically don't last very long here at my company as an intern, because they're not working. They're not as productive as they could be. So that's a huge tip for all the young engineers out there is, if you want to be promoted, if you want to earn that raise, if you want to move forward faster than the other people around you, putting that phone in a drawer is going to make leaps and bounds of progress ahead of these other people who are distracted constantly throughout the day. So I think that's a really, really good tip. I think the
Yeah,
last one, oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I just have one more tip that I think I use quite a bit, and it comes back to the automations I was talking about. I tried to not use my phone for the first hour or two when I wake up. I usually try to either read or go to the gym or do something else. But I automatically have it where at 9 p.m. it turns airplane mode, and then the next day at 8 a.m. it turns it off. So I don't have to even like think about it. Like I go on my phone and I see that airplane mode is on, and I know it's time to just not use the phone for the rest of the day, and it doesn't come on until like 8 a.m. the next morning. So that's kind of my last tip. And I'm happy to talk about automations on the phone. There's a lot of cool things that you can do with the iPhone. I'm sure it's the same with Android, but yeah, happy to talk about that later. So reach out if you have any questions.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably so many other things that we didn't even touch on today. I think my last tip, and you kind of already alluded to, you only have Twitter on your phone. You've
Mhm.
deleted apps off of your phone. I have found that to be very helpful. Again, there are some things that I have not been able to fully put out of my mind, or fully get out of kind of the addiction to it. There have been some phone games where I literally would play it for an hour and just completely get lost. And so years ago, I had to learn, don't have those on your phone. Or years ago, getting rid of Facebook. I don't have Facebook. There are some other social tools I don't have, because I just know I'm going to get sucked in. No matter how hard I try, or no matter how badly I don't want to be wasting my time on those things, there were just some things that I knew I had to completely remove, and so deleting the apps from the phone. And then Alyssa, you mentioned her earlier too. Something she told me a few weeks or months ago was to set your home page to be blank.
Mhm.
And so, you unlock your phone, that first screen that pops up. I actually have the camera, the photos, and my calendar on there, just because those are things I use very, very frequently. But every other app, whether it's kids apps or social media, or my side hustle, contacts, whatever it is, all of that's now on page 2, 3, and 4. Um, and I found that to be really helpful, because I open it up, I look at my calendar, and that's really all I need. That's the only thing I need that tool for at the time, like you were mentioning. And so then I can put it away, and I'm not getting distracted by all the other notifications or red bubbles or whatever it is
Mhm.
that are trying to keep me, with using my phone. So I think those are some of the top ones that I have found to be most helpful. I've tried a whole bunch of other things that maybe worked, maybe didn't work, or maybe they didn't work as well. But these items that we talked about today, at least for me, have been the most helpful for me to just reduce that screen time, the daily unplugging. I don't set the airplane mode, but I do have a sleep mode, which basically
Mhm.
blocks all notifications, from, I think I have it set from 9:30 until 7 a.m. it's typically when I'm trying to rest and sleep. So I have noticed that has also been helpful to not be distracting in the evenings. But yeah, anyways, those are lots of great tips. Hopefully, one of them works for some of the listeners.
Yeah, and whoever's listening to this, just feel free to reach out to us and share your tips. I think we are always kind of looking for new ideas to improve how we use our phones. And again, like I was saying, like the phone is just a tool that we can use for good or we can use for bad. And the more we are mindful with how we're using it, the more we understand what it is for and what we can benefit from it. I think we're gonna just use it better. Do you have any last thoughts or things you want to share, Nikolai?
Um, I think maybe my last thought would be I have shared some of the things that I do with people close to me, family
Mhm.
members, friends, and they don't get it. I mean, they start to be like, "Well, why do you do that?" Or "That's weird," or "Oh, no wonder why you never answer my text messages right away." It's because I don't have the notification on, whatever it is. Uh, I would say, if this is something you're committed to doing, just if somebody doesn't understand it, that's fine. And don't let them guilt trip you into changing it back, or don't let them pressure you into, you know, making an exception for them, whatever it is. I mean, I still love them. I still love my family. But if they don't get a text response back from me for 10 hours, it's because I literally was not looking at my phone for a while, and I'll just get back to them, And so, yeah, that just was on my mind because literally just recently had a conversation with somebody about sharing kind of some of the things that I was doing, and he's like, "Oh, that makes sense why you don't do this," I think it was a light bulb moment for him. But yeah, I would say that's probably my last tip.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, I think those are great tips. Again, I'm sure we can talk about these a lot more, but I think we'll leave it at that for today. Again, was thank you for co-hosting this show with me and doing it for a little while. It's exciting to explore some of these topics, new ideas that you have, and it's just exciting talking to you today.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for having me again.